The 82nd episode of the Juicebox Podcast, is sponsored, as always, by Insulin, makers of the OmniPod, which, as we know by now, is the world's only tubeless insulin pump. So you might remember way back in episode 47, I spoke with Sam Fold, and people are messaging me, Kathy, if you're listening to this, you're bugging me while I'm doing the podcast. Hold on a second. Sam Fold is a Major League Baseball player who has type 1 diabetes. And I spoke to Sam about, all kinds of things about how he handles his type 1. And at some point he talked about this charity work that he does with this big wiffle ball tournament called Slam Type 1 Diabetes. And he told me I should really talk to Jeff Kolak, who is the person who runs the whole thing. And Sam's involved. Actually, a lot of major leaguers are involved. I'm actually hoping to go down on December 10th to Florida to do a podcast live from there, but my shoulder surgery may get in the way of that. Nevertheless, let's listen to Jeff, who is a father of 2 kids who have type 1, one a natural child and one an adopted, and a guy who started this great charity and this wonderful event that's really blossoming into way more than maybe many would have anticipated. But I don't think Jeff I think Jeff had a big picture in his mind the whole time. So this is real, Kathy. So this is all right. Here it comes. Here comes Jeff.
Scott, I'm Jeff Kolak, currently the founder and CEO of Slam T1D, co-founded with my wife. And we have 3 children. Our oldest daughter, Naomi, is 22. She has a young 10-month-old, Bo. And Naomi has celiac disease. And our 2 youngest kids, Johanna or Jojo and Nicholas, are both 15 and a half, well, almost 16. Nick will be 16 October 26th and Jojo November 30th.
And do any of those kids have type 1? Do you have type 1?
I'm sorry. Johanna and Nicholas have type 1 diabetes.
Okay, and they're not twins though. Is that right?
Well, they are.
Oh, they are.
It was just a brutal labor. Lasted 31 days. No. So the story, our story is, it's a bit wacky. Johanna was diagnosed April 15, 2005, at the age of 4.5. And, like many parents, I'm sure we spent the first year just, deer looking in headlights, just trying to figure out what we're going to do as our entire lives have changed. But as we got our legs about us and, one thing led to another, we started volunteering at the local hospital, and we were involved in a local chapter at JDRF to do the Walk to Cure. At some moment we just said, well, what else can we do? We're kind of like an outreach team for the local hospital, blah, blah. And my wife and I decided, well, why don't we call the local Division of Children and Families? Maybe there's a family struggling with a child with type 1 diabetes, or maybe they've got a child and they just need respite care for a weekend. We can.
Jeff, you cut out. I'm sorry. You are gone. Jeff? Jeff is about to tell us something. He's not here anymore. You were just saying that you went into, or you contacted who? I'm sorry, a local.
Yeah. So our young daughter Johanna was diagnosed 4.5, and a couple of years into it, my wife and I were just thinking about the things we could do to help folks with dealing with the disease, and we decided to contact the local, kind of like a social services division. Mm-hmm. And when I contacted the woman, I'll be honest with you, Scott. I was doing some travel overseas, doing some business over in Moscow, and some consulting here. We had just sold some commercial property. I was a real estate developer, And I was just thinking I was going to check the box, let my wife know I made the phone call, and I was going to get back to work. And when I called, the woman, her immediate reaction was, "Oh my gosh, this is a miracle! It's a miracle!" And I said, "What do you mean?" She said, "You want a child with type 1 diabetes?" I said, No.
I don't feel like I said that. Yeah.
Right. We have one. We just we're offering to help for a weekend. And long story short, they had a young guy, Nicholas, age 6.5, was diagnosed about 4 months prior to my call. I think I called in May. And in May, he was diagnosed in February. And oddly enough, he was 31 days older than JoJo, so they're kind of like twins. But so that was May. It took us about a month. I'm a checklist kind of guy, so I had my things. I wanted to make sure I interviewed all of the doctors, the psychiatrists, so forth. And Nicholas was in foster care. He had been in foster care through several homes. It was more a case of his biological parents were. It was generational poverty, and they were just mixed up in things that they were local here in the state of Vermont, but they couldn't take care of themselves, let alone the 3 young children they had. Nicholas being the oldest, and at the age of 6.5, and so he had been, and I think this was his 4th or 5th foster care home, and diagnosed and. Any hopes of adoption just kind of shot out the window with that, and they had the agency had been on a regional Northeast kind of a hunt for a family who could provide them a permanent home and deal with managing the disease. And I make this unwitting phone call, and by June, his A1C going in was 12 and change. He had 13, 14 cavities. Not stuff for publication, but he didn't know how to take care of himself. In all ways, and so we just said, look, we're not interested in the foster care program. We're doing our thing, and but here's the deal. We've talked about it, and we'll adopt them. So go ahead and terminate the biologicals' rights. They were in the process of, they knew they'd need to do that anyway, for whoever would adopt them, and so that was June of 2007, and the adoption. So he was with us for about a year before the adoption was finalized. So Nick has been with us since June of 2007. And that's how we come to have 3 children, 2 with type 1 diabetes. And one thing led to another. Our Walk to Cure team was JoJo's gang originally, and we now needed to modify that. And on a family vacation trip to Maine, we were coming up with different ideas, and we came up with SLAM diabetes. And at the time, the T1D acronym didn't exist, and wasn't in play, and so we came up with SLAM diabetes. I actually had some, I thought were some better ones, but they probably wouldn't be appropriate for reprint or publication. So, and I just thought, what we ought to do? Let's get some graphics folks on it, and then let's trademark it. Who knows? But it just seems like it's a great combo. And from our perspective, it was. It was the focus of an action word like SLAM, right on T1D or diabetes, and so we did that. Came up with some graphics around that, and but then just kind of put it in mothballs, as it were, and that was 2008, I guess. And along the way. Natalie then said, well, when JoJo was diagnosed, there really wasn't a website that was exclusively for parents of kids with type 1 diabetes. So I'd like to do something, and where maybe I could just talk with other parents, or other parents could talk to one another. So we we created a website called Parenting Diabetic Kids, and in kind of short order, it started gaining some relative popularity. And I think this Parenting Diabetic Kids Facebooks have, I don't know, maybe 10,000 participants on it. But all the while it was in 20,000 forum members at the time, and but all the while it was really 90% viewership and readership were moms, and people would say, "Well, Jeff, why don't you speak into it from a dad's perspective?" And my vocab is sports oriented, and it's pretty straightforward. Played rugby for 15 years, and it's kind of like going through stuff is better than going around it. And so the idea of articulating my thoughts that might work in a kumbaya session just didn't really. It just wasn't. I didn't feel right about it. Didn't feel the vibe wasn't there for me.
I understand.
But the Slam Diabetes logo and that kind of that concept, it did have something to it. And then Ray Allen and I connected. Ray played hoops for the Celtics at the time, and his son Walker was diagnosed with T1D, and then he invited me down to a golf tournament that he did in Connecticut, and we figured, well, let's roll out the Slam Diabetes logo, and we did that, and Ray and Shannon and his mom Flo loved it, and and then after on the heels of that, Shaquille O'Neal's. He was sponsoring some kind of a VIP booth or kind of a lounge area at the 2011 NBA All-Star Game, and at the time earlier that fall, I had done something with the Slam Diabetes. It wasn't a nonprofit at the time. We had created this company that just held the graphics and whatnot.
Right.
And the thought was that we would just go out and kind of boost other nonprofits. And in this case, Ray had asked us if we'd be interested in promoting his 3 for 3s campaign. He came up with the idea that for every 3-point shot he made, people could donate $3 to the Joslin Diabetes Center. And so we did that through the Slam Diabetes ID, and I guess that's how Jack's folks reached out to us, and they said, "Why don't you come out to LA and just kind of talk about what you do, what you're doing with Ray Allen?" And so we connected with a public relations person out there in California, out in LA, and teamed up with her, and she was a great help in kind of organizing all of that, and so we went out there, but I really had no idea. I mean, we had some T-shirts and whatnot, but out there and talking to guys like Nelly and LL Cool J and Marlon Wayans and Kevin Hart, it was actually a suite at Kevin Hart's Comedy Jam. It occurred to me that there was a lot of people. And I had heard enough of it leading up to that. JoJo was diagnosed in 2005. Mm-hmm. This was 2-3 years later. It's actually almost five years later. I had heard a lot about. It's the nasty type of diabetes, or at least it's manageable, and all that stuff. But it really occurred to me that getting out to LA, that, gosh, people just don't understand what T1D or what type 1 diabetes is all about. And the T1D acronym was starting to gain a little traction, but it was still, it wasn't a familiar term. Mm-hmm. And so anyway, and we had also just contacted, there was a local guy here in Vermont, and he had built a quarter-scale replica of Fenway Park and then Wrigley Field in his backyard, and on an 11-acre site, and and a very successful tournament had been going on there for years to benefit Travis Roy, the fellow who broke his neck playing hockey for Boston University.
Mm-hmm.
And we had attended that in 2010. I said, gosh, you know what's really cool about this? So you don't have to have a connection to someone who's, had nerve damage, quadriplegia, or paraplegia. It's just a gas to play. Everyone's played wiffle ball, and it's really cool playing in these iconic parks. And so I had approached Pat and asked him if we could do one to benefit Slam Diabetes.
Right.
And we did, and raised, I think it was, $18,000 and had 10 or 12 teams, and it was great. And that was 2011, summer of 2011. But what struck me was I didn't want to just do this one tournament locally and kind of follow the track that they did. Now, they're very successful. They raised, I think this past tournament, they raised $600,000 for the Travis Roy Foundation.
Wow.
One wiffle ball tournament.
That's
amazing.
amazing.
They've done it over 15 years. But I wanted to accelerate that pace. I'm not getting any younger, and before I'm finger painting my own crap and I don't know my name, I wanted to make a bigger, faster difference. And I think, but more importantly, I see what my kids go through every day. I see what other kids go through every day. I see what adults go through. I see what adults went through to get to where they are.
Mm-hmm.
I hear the stories they talk about, back in the day. Oh, I missed this. I did this. Close call here. All these kinds of things. And I thought, my gosh, we've got to jack this up. And and I hadn't really formulated my thoughts to the extent that they are now, but where it's become this nonprofit. But there's just so much darn conversation about a cure, and there's so much. We do such a great job within the T1D space of talking to one another and tapping our own wallets, but we don't do such a great job of really helping people understand what type 1 diabetes is and empowering those with it to live life in full.
Yeah, getting outside of this bubble where everyone understands, right?
That's exactly it, Scott. Getting outside of our space. And so, I got a little wacko, and I said, what we're going to do? We're going to build these modular wiffle ball stadiums, and we're going to test this concept for a couple of years, and then we're going to go live. We're going to build mini Fenway, a little, we've got a generic one that we name after a T1D in the community we're in. We have a little Yankee we're about to start construction on a little Wrigley that we'll introduce in Tampa in December. And we're going to play wiffle ball, but we're going to do it with a big league feel. And let's see how it goes.
Wow.
We bought a tractor trailer. We haul these things all over the place. We've done a bunch of them, from Rhode Island to Boston to Central Mass to Connecticut, just testing the different types and ways that we could do a tournament. What occurred to us is that we did one in Tampa, and what occurred to us with Sam Fold of the Oakland A's, and what occurred to us is that people love playing certain types of backyard games, like wiffle ball, stickball. And when we add in-game play-by-play announcing and in-game music, and we've got these portable stadiums that are just, they're off the hook.
Turns into a thing, huh?
Well, I'm sorry, say it again.
It just turns into a big thing. It feels. It does. Yeah, it's exciting. Yeah.
It does. And what's really cool is that half our teams have no connection to type 1 diabetes.
Okay.
And what we do is we embed, and the other key piece of this is that fundraising is obviously, at the core of what these events are, but it is not all about fundraising. So much of our communications with teams and whatnot are about, highlight plays or the rules or key games or, how to make your uniform better or, it's all the stuff around the tournament. So we've come up with this concept where we actually embed the fundraising into the tournament. We call it the Slam T1D Power Ranking. And so for every $500 a team raises, they get points toward their power ranking. For every game they win that tournament, they get points toward their power ranking. At the end of the qualifying round in the tournament, top 8 teams automatically qualify. The remaining teams go into the wild card lottery, and then we get into the playoffs. Then we do things like we have an all-star game and home run derby, and we have a game in Tampa. We've got the haves versus have-nots, T1Ders versus non-T1Ders, and what we've done is we've had actors like Luis Guzman attend here in New England. Stars like Roy White of the Yankees, Bill Lee, and Luis Tiant of the Red Sox, and Oil Can Boyd, and then when we went to Tampa, our first tournament we did to benefit Slam T1D, our nonprofit, and Sam Fold's sports camp for T1Ders. We had 13 MLBers show up. Jeez. Josh Donaldson, Kevin Kiermaier. Last year we had 26.
No kidding. Yeah, I just wanted to say, and you're Jeff. It's hilarious because you probably don't listen to the podcast, but I talk way too much, and I'm just like, this is great. Jeff really knows what he wants to say. I really don't need to be involved in this too much. But I met you because Sam Fold, after I interviewed Sam said to me, "You really have to meet Jeff." And I was like, okay, great. He's like, please have him on the podcast. You'd really love him. And I was like, I absolutely will. And he starts telling me more about, because, Sam, I reached out to Sam not about Slam diabetes. I was just sort of talking to him to talk to him. And he brought this up. And I'm trying, you're trying to wrap your head around this idea of like, it's a wiffle ball tournament, but it's huge. And, Sam's involved. So all these guys are showing up and you've got people coming in. How long does the tournament last? Is it a weekend or is it?
Well, it's going to get to that point. So we've gone. This is our third. We're going into our third year. It's December 10th.
Right.
We had started out with 12 teams. Last year was 16. We're at 20 teams, and we could probably go to 24 or 30. We just have to cap it, just in terms of our infrastructure.
Manageable,
but we're gonna blow it out next year for sure. But it's a one-day tournament.
Okay.
But what'll happen? The one in Vermont that we do is a 2-day. It's a Friday from Friday afternoon through night, and then all day Saturday. I can envision this tournament ultimately being a 3 or a 4-day tournament on a weekend. And we'll do. We're doing another tournament with Joe Madden of the manager of the Chicago Cubs.
Okay.
He went to and that's one of the cool things because the tournament's not just a fundraiser; it's a connecting point.
Mm-hmm.
And Scott, if you ever played sport, if you're a sports guy, I believe that sports and it's the best way to break the ice between people. It's the best way to get to know someone. It's the best way to feel empowered. It's so the vibe is just so massive, and so.
Well, I can tell you this, and maybe this makes your point for you. So this past weekend, my son is a good student who plays baseball, and he's going around to camps trying to get colleges interested in him playing. So we were at a camp this weekend at the University of Penn. There were maybe coaches from 6 or 7 schools there. There were probably 70 kids there. You show up, know no one. There's no one there who you have any connection to whatsoever. And inside of a handful of hours, I can see my son laughing with guys, talking to people, adults and kids, like he's known them forever. Right. There really is something about that moment, like that space, that really does, you see what you have in common very quickly. And then before you know it, he gets in the car at the end of the day, and he's got personal stories about kids that he's only known for 8 hours. And, and so you get beyond the baseball, and then you start talking about other things.
Yep.
Yeah.
So the cool thing is we take this, we take sports, a backyard game that anyone can play, man, woman, child, boy, girl. We've got 10-year-olds playing. Now, the tournament's competitive. Mm-hmm. So it's not like we pretend to tag the kids or anything, So the tournament's competitive. And we've had 10-year-olds who are out there. They're better than 30-year-olds. But we've got 10-year-olds. We've got 70-year-olds playing, and for T1Ders,
yeah,
the experience is they get to meet other T1Ders. They get to see that other people who have no connection to the disease are there for them. That the day is, in some respects, while there is a conversation about type 1 diabetes, there's a push about it, that it's clearly all about that. The day really, it enables people to kind of get lost in the chase for that big trophy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And
you almost learn about diabetes without knowing you're learning about it too.
Yeah, and then
right.
For all of those who don't have any connection to T1D, hey, it's I plead guilty to using this fun game as the bait and switch to convert the unknowing to the knowing, to the empathetic, and then to the advocate.
Yeah,
and that's what it's all about. I mean, and the coolest thing to see a T1D or to see someone, a man or woman or child, sitting on their bench playing in this game, and then you have Josh Donaldson sidle up next to him and go, "Hey, I guess I'm with you guys. Josh, what's your name?" It's the coolest thing. And then I make a practice. I call every one of the players after the tournament, and I just thank them personally. Let them know that how much their presence means to everyone there, and particularly to people with type 1 diabetes. And the first year was, it's great. Sam's a great guy, and that's a given. Sam's just, I feel like, I wish I met the guy many years ago. It's just consider him a dear friend, but this year. What's neat is when you hear players say, "Oh, Jeff, first year we showed up it was because I'd do anything for Sam. Second year, we're showing up just because this is the coolest thing we've ever done." I mean, I had Josh Donaldson walking out to his car. We had a car service for him, and he's walking out. He looks down at his watch, says, "I got to get a little more of this." Turns around and goes back and gets another inning, and then you get a guy, for example, Joe Madden shows up at last year's tournament, and Rick Vaughn, the marketing guy for the Tampa Bay Rays, comes over. The Rays have a team in the tournament, and he says, "Hey, Joe Madden's here. He wants to talk to you." And so I go over and meet Joe, and we get chatting for the next 20 minutes, and he said, before you talked, before I saw, all of this, that here I am, I had a player, Sam, who has type 1 diabetes. I had no idea he was just so quiet about it and did such a good job. I had no idea what it took for someone with type 1 diabetes to stay alive.
Before Jeff tells us the rest of what the manager of the Chicago Cubs had to say about Slam T1D and being Sam Fold's coach, let's talk about our sponsor today, OmniPod. Now listen, let's get right into it. Insulin pumping. It's not for everybody, but it might be. You never know till you try. And how do you try? You hear people say, "Oh, I'm fine with my injections. My pen's fine," and maybe it is. Hey, God bless. But if you're thinking about an insulin pump, if you're thinking about trying something different, if you're thinking about being able to, adjust basal rates and, hey, I just had pizza, I'll turn my basal up for an hour, that kind of stuff, well, I think you might want to check into the only tubeless insulin pump that exists on the planet, OmniPod. Now, how you do that? Well, you go to myomnipod.com/demo, and OmniPod sends you a free, non-functioning, but no obligation demo pod. Now listen to what I just said there. Free and no obligation. There is no better deal on the planet than free and no obligation. You check it out. Maybe you put it on your body somewhere, see how it fits, see how it looks in your clothes, and it's going to look great. Let's be honest. And then you make a decision. This might be for me. I'm going to try. But at least you're an informed decision. You're actually holding it in your hand and seeing how it feels. It's not just some wild guess based on what your endo said. Use this one. Because, You know why they tell you to use that one. It's the one they're comfortable with. It's not because it's the right one for you all the time. You decide which insulin pump is right for you. myomnipod.com/demo or the links in your show notes. When you click on the linksies, then the Omnipod people know you came from the podcast, which I appreciate. Come on, do it today. myomnipod.com/demo. Back to Jeff.
He said, and to see the reaction of people and just how people are around here, he said, this is amazing. And then he said, and on top of it, the way you've taken this wiffle ball and turned it into something that's bigger than, just bigger than life.
Yeah.
He said, it's amazing. Would you ever consider doing one, in my hometown? And I said, done.
Yeah. Well, Jeff, see what you did there. I don't mean to cut you off, but what you did there was Sam's playing for Joe, I guess in Tampa Bay probably at some point, right? Right. And so Sam's out there being a professional baseball player, putting in the effort it takes to not only, stay alive with type 1 diabetes, but to play baseball at that level with it. This man's right next to him while he's doing it for all those years, has no idea what's going on. Your wiffle ball tournament shows him in 1 second. Now all of a sudden you've made an advocate out of Joe Madden. And it's even more amazing, and it is sort of what you say to people, is that you're always trying to get the idea across, like you really don't have any idea what it takes to live well with diabetes. And this example, I mean, same dugout, same locker room, same, they work together basically. Sam's doing what he's doing right in front of him, and still no one sees it. And, that's the real, I mean, not that there's not 50 different very valuable things in what you're doing, but there's a lot of value in that. And that's getting outside of that bubble that we talked about and getting people who don't know to know, and then creating more advocates, more people to talk about. So now you're going to do it in did he mean Chicago, or where did he mean?
So we're doing it in Hazleton, PA, in his hometown. He started a foundation, the Hazleton Integration Project, and it's to bring different races together and kind of reunify the town. I guess it had gone through a period of kind of racial divide, and so I thought, well, you know what? That's fantastic. Why don't we at the same time let's get after two issues. Let's get after coming together as a community, and let's also help T1Ders in that area in Eastern PA. And so whether it's education, whether it's awareness, helping Spanish-speaking families with type 1 diabetes in that area, and so
you're
that's our focus.
You were sort of learning that there's a bigger, not that you probably didn't imagine, but that there's a bigger world around diabetes than even the one you started trying to service. And
absolutely.
Yeah. Now you're spreading out too. How do you have the time for this, Jeff? What is it? Did you win the lottery or something, or what happened exactly?
No. It's I'm now in it full time, and I've said to folks, when we created the nonprofit back in the end of 2013, and we received our 501c3 designation. I think it was October of 2014, and I've just committed to we sold our various properties that we had in the commercial development business I was in, and I've said to folks on my board and friends, whatnot, I don't think I've made less money in any period of my life, and that includes, my college and high school days, but have had more fun. I think it's the combination. I can't tell you. I've had some in various projects, had some phenomenal, returns and some really great little deals. But there has been nothing like the experience of seeing the smiles on people's faces, the sense of empowerment that we're creating for people with type 1 diabetes, families who deal with it, caregivers, siblings, It's pretty cool, and even challenging. For example, with Sam's sports camp, and we're rebranding it, and Sam's taking it from there used to be, I think, Sam Fold's USF Sports Diabetes Camp, and it's now Sam Fold's T1D Sports Camp, and just challenging organizations to reach outside their box, to not just push the envelope, but to rip it apart, and in Sam's camp, they do a great job, a phenomenal job, a combination of the University of South Florida's Diabetes Center and the Florida Diabetes Camp Organization, but they've been kind of at capacity at roughly 115 campers for the weekend camp, and that's been their measure of success, that it's been good. And I couldn't help myself, but when I'm in the conversation, it's like, guys, your patient catchment is, 400 families? And that's just your hospital? What about the one right around the corner? What about the other one? What about elsewhere in the state of Florida? Why aren't we challenging ourselves to get to 200 campers, to double, to triple how many kids we serve? We'll figure out the infrastructure stuff. Maybe we got to grow it a little more gradually than I'm proposing, but
go bigger.
There are kids' lives that need to be changed.
Jeff, you are experiencing something that I feel like I've experienced, and a million other people probably who find themselves in an advocate situation. And I could easily tell you about the things that I do that I see those, sometimes they're not smiles. Sometimes it's just, people having more stable blood sugars or lower A1Cs or something like that. And then you do have that feeling like, gosh, why can't I find a way to reach more people? And if it's if it's helping, if I talk to 10 people and 6 of them get something valuable out of it, well, geez, if I talk to 100, wouldn't 60? And
exactly,
I know how you feel. So it's cool. It's cool that you're doing so. And so, are you able to expand it? And is I'm a little, I don't want to be confused, but is Sam's camp where you do the wiffle ball in December, or are they separate?
Right. So Sam's camp occurs in the first weekend of February.
Okay.
And so, and our wiffle ball tournament is in the second weekend of December.
Mm-hmm. And so, is that your big one in December down in Florida? Is that where you get a lot of?
I think it will be. I mean, we raised in the tournament in Vermont with we had 18 teams. We raised over $100,000. I think it came in at around $105,000, and we're gonna we'll blow through that number this coming June.
What happens to Jeff? What happens to the money then? What do you guys now? Because now you're bigger and now you're raising money. Are you because earlier you said you were thinking of boosting up other charities, but obviously it's not going that. What do you guys do? I mean, does the money go into just running more camps? Are the camps the charity, or do you guys donate to other things?
So Slam T1D is its own. We are our own nonprofit, mm-hmm. And so and a bunch of what we do is awareness around T1D, and so it fuels the awareness engine. And then we also fund camps, mentoring programs, educational things. We funded, so for example, we fund and put on a tournament at the Barton Center, which is located in Charlton, Mass. They run the Camp Clara Barton for girls and the Joslyn camp for boys, and the tournament we put on there in May of each year has become, I think, their second largest fundraiser, and they're now into their 6th year. And
Jeff, my dog is barking at a phantom thing in the house. Hold on one second here. Basil, please, buddy. We're doing. I mean, first of all, you know what's happening. We're making a podcast here, and you've heard nothing, and you're barking at it. So what do you see? Do you see this thing sticking up from the wall here? Is this what you've decided is a horror? This? Why don't I move this for you? Okay. There you go. Now just sit back down. It's all good. People who listen to the podcast are normally aware of just Basil snoring in the background, which is great for my self-confidence. And but
what kind of dog?
He's a French bulldog and a Boston Terrier mix. And we
have a French We have a French bulldog.
Dude, he really is adorable. But he's 2 years old, Jeff. I just taught him how to be a dog. It took 2 years. Come here, buddy. Come here. Come on over here. Come here, because you're just going to keep barking. So come here. I know they hung Halloween stuff on the wall, and now you think it's. I know. Come here. Come on over. They are very difficult dogs to train.
Well, they're impossible. Yeah. I mean, at least the French bulldog is impossible to train. Yeah.
All right, big guy. You all right? Everything's good? You good? All right, chill out. Jeff had enough problems with his Skype already. He doesn't need extra problems with you. All right, good. Go lay down. Chill out a little bit. So I think the moral here is that you're using this money in a lot of different ways. Plus, I think the main focus obviously is the camps where you're spreading awareness and getting people together, and plus just the having kids together, people with type 1 diabetes, and letting this event be for them is probably hugely uplifting for people. So, I mean, you're just doing a lot of great stuff. I don't understand why you're such a decent person. Because Jeff, we didn't talk about this, but I'm actually adopted. So I'm aware of what a huge undertaking it is for a person to just take another human being into their house and say, good, bad, or indifferent, whatever happens here, I'm going to love you and I'm going to take care of you. It's a massive leap to make, and it says a lot about people to begin with, to adopt somebody. And so I guess I did want to kind of go backwards for a question and ask you, what do your kids think of all this? Are they on board? Will they be at the wiffle ball camp? Or is this another example of just children looking at their parents and going, oh, you idiot. Or do they, you know what I mean? Like how sometimes you do something, you think, oh, my kids are really going to like this about me. And they just roll their eyes at you and keep moving. But I was wondering if they're on board, if they're involved, or how involved they are and all that stuff.
They're all very involved. And I think, if you go back, I think if there was one thing that if there one aspect of the things that we do that I think I didn't appreciate enough. I'm an all-in type of guy. So put me on some. I'm in 100% in. There's no, and away we go. And so when we made that decision to invest ourselves in the fight against type 1 diabetes and on behalf of T1Ders, and even when we made the decision to adopt Nicholas, I look back and the one person who probably, there were benefits that abounded. I think the one person who I may have short-stroked a little bit was our oldest daughter, Naomi. And I think I didn't appreciate, as we were going along with it, I didn't appreciate the impact that the disease can have on non-T1D siblings. And in Naomi's case, it's like, all of a sudden, all this attention is thrown at Johanna. And then to add to it, now we're adding another child, and not just another child, but another child with type 1 diabetes. And then on top of that, we're starting a website. And then on top of that, we're starting to do this Slam Diabetes thing that's evolved into Slam T1D, and now it's off the hook. And Naomi and I have our own things we do. Naomi is now, she actually helps the nonprofit. She's just started as a kind of a social media assistant, and within the past couple of weeks actually, and doing a great job. And Naomi has been in all along the way.
Yeah, Jeff, I have an older son, obviously, who's 4 years older than my daughter, and it's hard to remember all the time because the diabetes seems like it, like there's no alternative. Like you obviously have to do these things to, you're not just trying to stay alive, you're trying to be healthy and live well, and it takes a lot of effort, a lot of time, a lot of energy, and that energy does take away from other things in your life. And because it's such a health-oriented thing and it seems so important, you can kind of you can kind of resolve those two things in your head and let other stuff go. And it's difficult to split your time up. And, there were times this weekend, I was gone for 2 days this weekend with my son, and I woke up in the middle of the night and my daughter's blood sugar was higher than I would have liked it to be. And the real secret there is I don't sleep as much as other people do. But my wife, my wife's asleep when I'm awake. She doesn't, I think she understands because I share with her, but I don't think she really understands what overnight is like for me sometimes and how I, on tough nights, like last night's a great example. I slept 10 hours last night. My daughter's blood sugar was perfect all night. It just got lucky. That doesn't happen very often. Saturday night when I was away and my wife was there, it was rocky and it needed more attention. And, there were times where my wife would do something with the insulin and then go back to sleep, where I would have maybe stayed up to make sure it worked or added more or done something like that. And I felt guilty in a hotel room in Philadelphia when I could see my daughter's blood sugar. I felt like, gosh, if I was there, I think I maybe could have her 40 points lower than this, which, and at the same time, if I'm not here with my son, then he's going to feel like we abandoned him at some point. And so it's really, I heard you get choked up when you started talking about it, and it's a difficult thing to do. There are pressures and anxieties from diabetes that affect aspects of life that no one even understands, even sometimes the people it's happening to. So it sounds like you're great dad.
Right. And I think that's, Naomi's, she's wonderful. She's amazing. And she's fully in and supportive and of both the kids, and she's really taken well to Nick and the sister and brotherhood that they have is and they've developed has been amazing to see and develop, and it's been tremendous. But what's really neat about these tournaments is we got siblings at these tournaments. You know what? And they're out there, they're playing wiffle ball, and they're going for the win.
Yeah.
They're it's about T1D, but they're on the team and they're looking for the W. And that's what's really great is these are such unifying things, and for us that's our voice. Our voice isn't it's sports. It's a sports vibe. It's a sports voice. It's about carrying the day, winning the day, winning the moment, and living in full, and just taking what comes and powering through.
It's actually a fantastic metaphor for living with diabetes, honestly, what you just said.
What's that?
What you just said, just winning the moment, winning the day, just powering through. Like that really is, that's how I approach handling my daughter's type 1. My kid, my daughter plays softball at a fairly competitive level for her age, and it's not easy to play softball when you're 12 and you have diabetes. There's a lot that goes into it, and there's a lot of roadblocks that come up, and sometimes it would be easier just to sit down on the bench and take a break, but she doesn't. She just pushes through. You just sort of have to beat this blood sugar and then get to the next meal and conquer that and just keep trying to win the moment. I think what you just said is a perfect allegory for living with diabetes, honestly. So, I think it's fantastic what you've built. It really is.
Yeah, and so, our objective is to just keep broadening awareness around T1D and coming up with creative ways to empower T1Ders to live life in full.
I was just sitting here wondering when in December it is. Like, I was wondering if I could come. You
gotta come down. You gotta make it.
Right.
From Jersey?
Yeah, it sounds cool. It really does. Because I'm not going to Vermont ever again, because you people don't have air conditioning, and I don't understand that. So I went there last year. I rented a house.
When did you come up?
Jeff, my family, my daughter was in some tournament. They were busy winning some regional championship like last summer. And my son was finishing up baseball. And, if you're a baseball family, you give like 10 days at the end of the summer to go on vacation before school starts again. And so I talked my wife into going to somewhere different. I said, let's just go somewhere and relax. And I found this really beautiful house in Vermont somewhere. up on the side of a mountain, had a pool. I was like, this will be great. We'll sit around here for a handful of days and we'll come home. And she's, my wife might be a little more of a hotel person than that, but she was like, yeah, let's go. So she's going to go up on Saturday morning. My son's going to finish up his last baseball game of the season, and we're going to drive up later. So she gets there a few hours before me, and I get a phone call from my daughter. Hey, Mom seems pissed. And I was like, why? She goes, we're at the and I'm like, we're at the house, she says. It's a nice house. And I went, okay. She goes, we cannot find a thermostat for the air conditioning. and I said, well, that's impossible. It's a nice house. We rented it. It wasn't very expensive, but it was enough to, it's a decent house. It's a beautiful property. And I said, you're not seeing it. Look around. No. All right, we'll find it. And a couple of hours later, I'm driving to Vermont, and now I'm dreading going to Vermont, Jeff, because I'm like, I feel like I'm driving to Vermont to get yelled at. You know what I mean? And so I can't get yelled at anywhere. I don't have to drive to Vermont for it. So I'm driving up, and my daughter texts back. She goes, there are box fans in all of the closets. I don't think this is good. There's no air conditioning here. Mom does not seem amused. And I was like, oh, great. But that's a pretty standard thing in Vermont, though, right?
Yeah, where in Vermont?
Oh, gosh. Near Springfield, a little north of Springfield.
Oh, gosh. Down in the center?
Yeah, we made it about to the center.
Yep.
We were near Ben and Jerry's, sort of like in that area there. I don't really remember the exact name of the town we were in, but we were legitimately up on a mountain in a house. Yep. And everything was absolutely beautiful and fantastic about the trip. But I would have liked air conditioning. That was pretty much it.
Well, I think most Vermonters go through this. And as someone from Connecticut, I don't qualify as a true Vermonter. Mm-hmm. I'm not even sure. Even though my kids are born in Vermont, I'm not even sure they qualify. I think locals would have you believe that it's got to be 2 or 3 generations back. But anyway, the conversation locally is that AC or no AC, and there are probably no more than 10 days out of the year where one truly needs AC. It's just gorgeous up here.
I must have found those days, or we're not accustomed to it. And it wasn't bad. Listen, I want to be clear. After a couple of days, it wasn't bad. It was the sleeping, I think. Like when you're accustomed to sleeping with air conditioning and you don't have it, it's a weirdness. So I don't think I'm going to be allowed to go back to Vermont ever again, as long as I'm married. But we've been married 20 years. That could go to hell too at some point. So maybe I'll make. But December in Florida. When we get done recording, I'm going to ask you more about it.
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah. So did we not cover anything, or did we? I didn't leave anything out. I hope. I mean, what's the website?
slamt1d.org.
Okay. All right. And I'm going to put links.
You got all of our tournaments listed there. We'll be updating that with the new tournaments for the 2017 season. Everything you'd want to know about Slam T1D.
Where exactly in December is the one in Florida?
December 10th. It's a Saturday. And it's at the University of South Florida's Magnolia Fields, great rec athletic field. And we go in, the tractor trailer shows up on a Tuesday or a Wednesday, and we've got a logistics crew that flies in, sets everything up, and tents, food trucks, lights, all that stuff. It's just away we go. And this year was really cool.
And if people come out and bring a team, is it too late to put a team in the tournament?
We are down to, I think we're down to 2 or 3 spaces left. And I do know that Joe Madden's restaurant down in Tampa is thinking about putting a team in, and Dante Bichette's family. Dante Jr. and his son Bo, who are both now playing for Team Brazil in the the World Baseball Championships.
Yeah.
They're up there in the New York area now, but they played in the tournament 2 years ago, had a blast. Couldn't play last year because they had a wedding to go to, but they're hoping to be back at it. So I've told them that we'll hold a spot for them for another week or so. But,
so it's fair to say if we come out, and if people come out or they sign up, they're going to meet some pretty cool Major League Baseball players among other people too.
Well, yeah, I mean, the vibe is it's very casual, and I think the ball players like that. Everyone loves it because, we do a good job of just policing the kind of the autograph hawkers and the paparazzi types.
It's a good time.
I say policing. We just, we go through, and there aren't many. There are a few who show up, and we just say, hey, look, here's the deal. Don't hound the guys, and if you want to do it, make a donation. And most of them do. And there's no entrance fee for people to attend and watch the games on Saturday. There's no admission at the gate, and the teams pay a registration fee, and then they go out and fundraise, and teams raise thousands of dollars. Our goal this year, we hope would be, we hope to top $100,000 this year.
That'd be great. Good for you. Well, I wish you a lot of luck. Jeff, it's an hour already, so I really appreciate you coming on and doing this, and I also appreciate you not making me crowbar answers out of you. That was really... I felt like I was on cruise control for a little while. It's like, I have a thought, but Jeff's are fine, so I'm just going to shut up.
Good stuff, Scott. Well, I appreciate it. I'm glad I passed the test.
No, you were fantastic. Thanks so much for doing this.
All right, great.
Take care.
Take care.
Huge thanks to Jeff for coming on and for Sam Fold's introduction. Go to slamt1d.org to find out more. Thanks also to OmniPod, the sponsor of this podcast. Go to myomnipod.com/demo to start your trial today. It's free and there's no obligation. Nothing you hear on the Juicebox podcast should be considered advice, medical or otherwise. Always consult a physician before making changes to your plan that involves your health and those kinds of things. There's probably a better way to say that. See you next week.